Hi, I'm Jason Gorber, and we're here to look at the Sudio A2 in-earphones. These are from Sudio, Swedish company that emphasizes design as much as it does quality and providing real punch at a really affordable price range. These are slightly below the N series, but that have a couple of different earphone design. They have a wide range, of course, but the A2, despite being extremely affordable, are actually quite powerful. They have some very interesting features in it. Turning around the back, you can see that what we're getting inside, but it does say that it has active noise cancellation, which is something I'll discuss there. Crystal clear phone calls. Actually, the microphones on these are actually pretty good. IPX splash proof, so it actually allows you, again, to have some level of water resistance. You can use these outdoors. You can use them and not be worried about that a little bit of water getting in, or even some sweat will actually interfere with the mechanism itself. Perforated silicone tips, we'll discuss that. And this is interesting, up to 9 hours of playtime and 30 hours in total, which again is actually superior to some of the other models that come from this company. You actually get a little bit more playtime. Now, why would that be? Well, I mean, one way is that the actual form factor works out that way, but also by having a little bit less to drive, you can actually have the battery last a little bit longer, which is actually quite nice. Despite my struggles, I managed to get the paper case open. Again, it's one of those things that this company does, is provides an all recyclable container. The model itself, of course, isn't recyclable in quite the same way, but at least the internal packaging does what we want it to. And then we have this is the sort of eggy thing. I know it's probably hard to see against the dark background, but there we are, and clamshell, and it opens up exactly like some sort of, Botticellian painting, and inside we have the earphones themselves. We'll get to those in a sec. Let's see what else is in the case. Underneath the cardboard here, we have an owner's manual, which we'll get to in a sec. We have a series of new silicone tips, which is great. It makes it much more comfortable to actually listen that way. And again, this super little short USB-A to USB-C cable, which is definitely advantageous, getting a nice little collection of those. And again, at the bottom, just a simple owner's manual. Now, there's not much to say about actually setting this up. It's extremely simple to do. You basically plug it in, search on your device, be it Android or iPhone, connect it via Bluetooth, and you're good to go. This does not operate with the Sudio app, so you can't dial things in quite the same way, but the functionality sort of does what you want it to do. The earphones themselves are sort of well designed, nice clean lines, sort of a hard plastic, and with these sort of rubbery tips, they sort of insert quite well, if I get my right and left, and they're actually extremely comfortable. I'm extremely pleased how they are. Just plugging them in and immediately sort of good to go. Touch sensitivity on the side, which allows you to do things like start, stop, activate noise cancellation, etc., through a series of gestures, which are articulated in the owner's manual. But I mean, honestly, most people don't crack open the owner's manual, and they just sort of experiment, like, what happens if I click it twice? What happens if I click it 3 times? The sound on these is actually very interesting. They're not super bass heavy, which in some ways makes for a better soundscape, even though they're the sort of on their various levels of where they fit in with their line. They may be considered slightly a lower letter, as it were, even though it's an A. I actually like the sound of these quite a bit, and one reason being, by being less bassy and less sort of driving of those frequencies, it sort of allows everything else to settle in a slightly more cohesive way. Vocals mid-range, that sort of like center of the audio spectrum stuff, certainly feels pretty locked in, but you actually have a spaciousness. You have this sense of the music sort of existing in a three-dimensional space in a way that I was actually quite surprised. I actually think that at this level, these are a really decent pair of certainly on the go earphones for you to listen to a wide variety of things. Yes, podcasts. Yes, things where audio quality isn't necessarily the most important thing, but certainly for music, I was actually extremely pleased about how they sound. Now, that being said, the noise cancellation seemed almost useless. It did almost nothing in terms of actual formal noise cancellation. The difference between it being on and off, you could sort of hear a difference, not substantial. And ANC, one of the things about it is it kills your battery life. Because it's basically what it's doing. I mean, not to get too complicated, is it's using the microphones to listen to what's on the outside and hypothetically transmit out of phase that audio, which will cancel out the waveform. I know that's all super nerdy, but that's what it's doing. But what it means is that it's not only playing back the audio, it's playing back this other audio and using the microphones always on to actually hear what's going on, which is what affects your battery life. So the fact is, with these, given the fact that it has these rubber gaskety things on the outside, they fit in your ear canal pretty well and do a good job of passive noise cancellation, meaning you can turn off ANC and still get a pretty decent sound. Now, with ANC on, the bass does improve a little bit. I think there's just removing certain frequencies that sort of get cascaded out, or just maybe the reamplification actually adds some bass. I don't know what's going on, but nonetheless, if you want a little bit more kick out of these, I think that'll do it. Again, good amount of number of hours for listening. The case is okay. It's a little bit slippery. The plastics, or you tend to drop it. The US, and yet no damage. USB-C on the back makes it, like when it's charging, a little bit awkward where it goes. But when the earphones are in here and they're sort of plopped in the case, the magnet, if I put them in right, see, I always do this wrong, but if I put them in right, you see, even with the case open, the earphones themselves aren't going anywhere, magnetically held in place, and then it's very quick for you to actually put them in. Very comfortable for them to be in the ear. They sort of, they in terms of this form factor, this sort of, you know, they're a little bit more robust. They're a little less sort of smooth than some other earphones. I actually really like that. I think that they feel more secure in my ear in a good way, and as I move around, I don't think that they're going anywhere, which I really like. So yeah, I'm actually quite a fan of the A2. Given the fact that they are extremely competitive in terms of pricing, I think that the functionality does what it needs to do, and this form factor is one that I personally much prefer. It works much better with my ear. Everybody's ears are different, and so some people might like the sort of hard plastic with the sort of customizable earpiece, but I love the fact that I can sort of tune it to my individual ear preference, and again, in terms of straight up listening, I think these are a good sort of everyday pair. Certainly something that you can build upon and use these in conjunction with other things that maybe are strictly for listening. These in terms of like just working, you know, during transit while you're wandering around. I think that these are earphones definitely to check out. Thanks so much for watching. Let us know in the comments what you think of these, and we'd love to see you next video. Take care.